Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for November 6th, 2024. First off, today we're going to go to ksltv.com, where it says, the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints announced Monday the sites for future temples in Colorado and Montana. The Colorado Springs, Colorado Temple will be located at the south corner of Flying Horse Club Drive and Barossa Valley Road, according to a church news release. It will be built on 18.6 acres of land and will be roughly 45,000 square feet. The temple will be a single-story structure. There will also be a meeting house nearby and utility building, according to the release. The temple was first announced in October 2023 by President Russell M. Nelson. The temple is the fourth in Colorado that is either in operation, under construction, or announced. The other three are located in Denver, Fort Collins, and Grand Junction. The Missoula, Montana temple will be located at the corner of Old Bitter Root Road and Lower Miller Creek Road. According to the release, the temple will be a one-story structure and will be roughly 19,000 square feet. President Nelson first announced the temple in April 2022. The other temples in Montana are in Billings and Helena. The Helena, Montana temple was dedicated in June of 2023. Speaking of temples, let's listen to two short clips from Laurie Lee Hall, who was previously Chief Temple Architect for the Mormon Church.
I took on both temple design and temple construction. So for the years 2007 to 2013, those are the golden years of being the chief architect of the church that I refer to as having responsibility for all worldwide design and construction of temples and special projects.
Yeah, just to summarize them, there's 55 temples that Laurie Lee worked on. Probably some of the most high-profile ones would be the Provo City Center Temple. Also things like the new Provo MTC, the renovation of the Salt Lake Tabernacle, that was Laurie Lee. The Church History Library downtown, and just the standard meeting house program. So if you just go to a newer meeting house today, you're in a design that Laurie Lee designed. There are sacred spaces all around the world that I think many Latter-day Saints don't even realize that they are enjoying a sacred space created by Laurie Lee Hall.
Take note, members, you've likely sat in and enjoyed peace in a temple that was designed by a transgender woman who was called by God himself. And clip 2.
The Mormon Church isn't building a lot of temples. The Mormon Church is announcing a gosh-awful announcement level of temples. I've quizzed Rebecca and Landon, who follow things fairly closely with regard to temple construction, how many dedications are occurring each year. And it's still in that same 5 to 6 new temple range that our program was producing 15 years ago. And so if anybody can say otherwise, if somebody's aware of the fact that as we announce 30 to 40 to 50 temples a year, that somehow we've figured out how to get 30 to 40 to 50 dedications a year, I'll accept that as the truth. But so far as I can tell, the centralized program that I was a part of at one time is still a centralized program that has limited capacity to actually design and construct these buildings to the point of getting them dedicated. What's happening, in my opinion, is a gross exaggeration of the number of announcements. It's not building and producing lots of new temples. It's still plugging along at the same pace it always has, which is going to create a 20 to 30 year backlog of announcements.
So it seems that the church finds it easy to announce temples, but isn't actually getting them built very quickly. Will there soon be a huge backlog where all the folks who were super excited when they were sitting in general conference and heard a temple announced in their area will be waiting 10, 15, 20 plus years for that temple to actually be built? I think so. And now we will go to the Ex-Mormon subreddit for a letter from a ministering brother to a new single sister in the ward. It says, Letter of Introduction. Sister blank. Brother blank, and then in parentheses it says wearing glasses, because as you can see at the top, they've provided photos of themselves that have been blurred out. So Brother blank wearing glasses and I have been asked by Jesus Christ through the Elders Quorum presidency to represent him as your ministering brothers, which we joyfully accepted. We're excited to have the privilege to serve you and pray that you allow us the privilege. As representatives of Jesus Christ, we are duty-bound to reach out to you. However, aside from duty, we are keenly interested in learning from you because we find that is the only way we can fully understand the gospel of Jesus Christ, interacting with others trying to understand it all. We believe that agency is a critical enabler in our personal progress on earth. Accordingly, should you choose not to interact with us, we will certainly honor that choice. At the very least, we hope you will give us a chance to check in periodically to keep you informed as to what the church is doing regularly and to be assured that you have what you might need from Jesus Christ. Lastly, please let us know when you might be available for a personal visit. I'm starting to wonder if Jesus is going to visit them or these two men. The alternative is for us to stop by unannounced. Recall the duty reference I mentioned earlier. This guy has to stop by. Jesus wouldn't have it any other way. That can be awkward if you don't like unscheduled visits. You can reach me by phone, text, or email. We will follow up with you before the 15th of November unless we hear from you sooner. I can unashamedly testify that Jesus Christ loves you and hope to be able to tell you why I know that. May the Lord bless you in your daily walk as a disciple of Christ. Very respectfully yours, Brother Blank and Brother Blank. And now we will go to KSL TV, where it says, an unlikely partnership is developing the future of minivans. Engineers at Brigham Young University and the and the Japanese vehicle manufacturing giant Toyota. Why is this unlikely that BYU would be partnering to do something for minivans? I don't know what vehicles are most prominent at BYU, but I do know there are quite a few large families there, and I feel like minivans would be very likely to be something associated with BYU. BYU partnered with Toyota to develop a more efficient welding method for the sliding doors on the Toyota Sienna. The current welding technique, resistant spot welding, is designed for steel. The new process, refill friction stir spot welding, is based on the same fundamental principles but tweaked and specialized for aluminum's unique chemical properties. The new technique is more relevant than ever as car manufacturers focus on utilizing lighter aluminum parts rather than steel. It uses 40 times less energy, emits fewer emissions, and produces welds that are 10 times stronger, a release from BYU said. BYU manufacturing engineer Professor Yuri Hovansky showcased the welding innovation at a conference where the Toyota team saw him and suggested a partnership. Hovansky and graduate student Damon Gale visited Toyota's manufacturing plant in Indiana to evaluate current production and analyze how to use the new process in aluminum sliding doors. Hovansky and his students published papers with their findings in the SAE International and Journal of Manufacturing and Materials Processing. Our research concludes that refill friction stir spot welding is a preferable method for joining aluminum body panels and is positioned to become the new standard in automotive manufacturing, said Gale, who was the first author of the SAE International paper. It will also certainly benefit many BYU students with big families. And now we will go back to the ex-Mormon subreddit for this post that says, I have a cousin that is my same age, and she's currently serving her mission in Tijuana. Today I received her P-Day mass email and was so disgusted to read about how her apartment is so moldy that it's literally been making them sick. And then she went on to say that due to her illness, she hasn't been able to spread the light of Christ. And I'm just like, girl, worry about feeling better. But I'm just so mad. You'd think $1 billion cult could afford a better living situation for volunteers to live in until their mission is over. I'm just so mad. Yesterday, I talked about how the church recently put out a news release saying how well they protect their missionaries. Well, I don't think this missionary feels protected. Now we will go to glossy.co, where it says, when speaking on Camille Walker's Call Me CEO podcast, Crumble Cookies co-founder Jason McGowan said he did not expect his heavily frosted large-scale cookies to find success outside of his home base of Utah. The local popularity of sweet treats like cookies is no accident. After all, 42% of the state's population are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Its adherents, more popularly known as Mormons, do not drink alcohol or coffee and subsequently are known for high rates of sugar consumption. But Crumble has found popularity outside of LDS heavy enclaves, and then some. Founded in 2017 by McGowan and Sawyer Hemsley, who have served in missions for the LDS Church, Crumble Cookies now counts more than 980 locations across the country and brings in more than $1 billion in annual sales. The franchise is especially popular among Gen Z and Gen Alpha consumers, who document the store's weekly flavor drops on TikTok. Crumble did not respond to Glossy's request for comment. I wanted to highlight this article because if you're like me and you try not to frequent Mormon-run businesses so your money doesn't end up as tithing, this is a heads up that Crumble is run by Mormons, and if the owners are still faithful, likely taking 10% of that $1 billion and giving it to the Mormon Church. The article goes on to say, Crumble Cookies is also just one of many aspects of Utah Mormon culture to reach the mainstream zeitgeist in 2024. It then lists as other things that have The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and tradwife influencers like Utah-based Hannah Nealman. Potentially polarizing religious affiliations aside, beauty and fashion brands are seeing the financial opportunities in those Mormon-affiliated or adjacent figures. There's sort of, for lack of a better idea, the flattening of the religion into some sort of aesthetic, said Amy, Chief Experience Officer and partner at advertising agency Duncan Channon. But it doesn't have these religious connections for consumers at all. It's about the experience or aesthetic, or literally the taste. In July, Kylie Cosmetics teamed up with Crumble Cookies on a limited edition cookie box to promote its new blurring skin tint. In August, the cookie franchise launched a limited edition purple sandwich cookie in promotion of Olivia Rodrigo's Guts Tour. TikTok star and model Nara Smith, whose marriage to model and LDS member Lucky Blue Smith has led many to speculate on her religious affiliation, has partnered with the likes of K-beauty brand Laneige and Marc Jacobs on sponsored social media posts. Others have started their own lifestyle brands. Secret Live star Macy Neely is the founder of natal nutrition line Baby Mama, while Nealman sells protein powder and rustic apparel under her Ballerina Farm brand. But with that mainstream popularity also comes hesitation from those both in and outside of the LDS Church about how cultural values like modesty and gender roles are portrayed by reality shows or mom talk influencers. The mainstream streaming channels and platforms are trying to almost exploit Mormonism, being like, oh wow, look at this weird religion. It is weird. But then the people who are on the shows are like, no guys, look, we're normal, said Shalise Ansola, a former devout Mormon who hosts the YouTube channel Cults to Consciousness. It's this weird disconnect between active Mormons, people who really want to follow all the rules and wear the garments and be modest and not drink alcohol and not swear, and the ones who are kind of living on the fence. When people from strict cultures publicly post content that rebels against traditional values, it creates intrigue. It's relatable beyond the Mormon community, as so many people have experienced tension with the values they were raised with, said Megan Herron, strategy director at social media agency Movers and Shakers. Gen Z highly values these creators' transparency and relatability, affording them cultural influence. So-called trad wives like Nealman and Smith, known for their polished aesthetics and idyllic family life, make for successful influencers in part because of their perfect outward image, however. Mormonism is selling an aspirational life, said cults scholar Daniela Young, who chronicled her experience growing up in the Children of God cult in her book Uncultured, a Memoir. America's all been taught a little bit to want that aspirational life. We don't want to give up our coffee or wine, but we want to have kids that are that respectful, and we want to have wives that are that pretty. Cults always pop up in times of social turmoil, said Young, who stated that the LDS Church meets mainstream definitions of a cult. It's because life is exhausting. Everybody under 40 right now has had national level events going on every other month. And the influence of those reality stars and influencers is still percolating. One of the most popular accessories on The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which has already been renewed for 20 more episodes, is a large dirty soda from Utah-based soda franchise Swig, which, like Crumble, is expanding across the country. But whether or not following mom talk influencers means promoting a powerful religious institution is not necessarily of concern to many consumers. And the reason I'm reading this article is because it should be. If you don't like the Mormon Church going into communities and building their huge temples, despite lack of support from the community, then stop frequenting Mormon-run businesses, because those people are likely giving that money to the church, and then the church is turning around and using it to legislate so they can build temples wherever they want. Consumers are going to enjoy the cookie, and they're going to watch the program, and they're going to tune in and see who she's wearing while she's making beef jerky from scratch. They're not going to concern themselves. To a certain extent, it's escapism for the end user. Just be as careful as you can where your escapism takes you. And now we will go back to Reddit for some commentary about one of the church's temples. The post says, Kiribati is going to be the first casualty of global warming. While Kiribati streets are being moved and homes relocated as the sea level rises, the church just held its groundbreaking ceremony. The temple lot is a narrow, flat, 3/4 acre section on Tarawa next to a JW Kingdom Hall just a foot above sea level. The back of the temple parking lot will be against the sea on one side, while the road in front of the temple lot is against the sea on the other side. No basement is possible, meaning the necro-baptistry cannot be below the ground, as the church has maintained in the past. In 20 years, access to the temple will require a canoe. Nature has a harsh way of dealing with global warming denial. What surprises me most, though, is that a second counselor in an area presidency presided the groundbreaking, that an apostle couldn't be bothered to take a private jet to paradise, at least while paradise lasted. And today we will will finish with this quote from Mary Ann Williamson that says, "We must remember that passionate, free-thinking women have never been deeply appreciated by the great religions or governments of the world. Because passionate, free-thinking women raise passionate, free-thinking children, and passionate, free-thinking children grow up to be passionate, free-thinking adults, and passionate, free-thinking adults are very difficult to manipulate and nearly impossible to control." That's your update for today, folks. And today, more than ever, I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.